What is chord tone soloing? Well, in my mind, it's just playing the right note at the right time. That really means knowing what chords you're on and what notes are in those chords. You could look at that as playing over the changes and things like that, but I like to really kind of simplify it by seeing the triad shapes, the shape of the chords, right on top of each other out of a scale that I'm going to use. So for instance, there's something called playing over the chords, and this is what a lot of guitar players will do. The chord progression I'm going to kind of show you some examples on right now is just C to F. And a C major pentatonic scale sounds really great over that. But sometimes we end up missing some cool notes, whether they're in the scale or not, out of the scale. And sometimes it just doesn't sound all that great. But if we think about what are the key notes between those two chords, and which notes may not be in the scale, and we're going to call those the strong notes, we can really nail the chord changes very simply by changing one note or just seeing where the chord voicing sits within the scale. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to play this chord progression as just C to F. I'm just going to play C major pentatonic over it without really paying a lot of attention to hitting the right notes. Okay, so, that sounded all right. I don't think it sounded that great. I was just playing the C major pentatonic scale over it. It always sounds a little aimless, right? Because I wasn't particularly ending on a proper note on the chord that I'm on. I hit a lot of Cs, which is okay, because I'm in the key of C. But, yeah, felt kind of meh to me. So what you want to think about is, first things first, I have my C chord right here. And I have a nice F chord right here. Right within this scale, I can think about, well, C major is C, E, and G. It's just all right here. So any of those notes are going to be great notes to land on your C chord. So when I go to my F chord, well, we can see that some notes are the same, and one note is the same, the C. That's why that C worked pretty well. But we also have an A right here, which is in the pentatonic scale, but I didn't really resolve to that much on the F chord. We're going to do that in a second. And also, we have this note right here, which is F, which is outside of the scale. That's a really great note on the F chord because it's the root. So it's a strong tone. It's really defining that chord. And the A is also spectacular as well. So let's roll this track again, and I'm going to really try to outline that F chord, particularly using the F and the A. See? All right, so you hear the difference, and let me talk you through what I was doing. On the C chord, I was making sure I hit the notes of the C major chord, C major triad, right there. And when I went to the F, I made sure I hit some A's and some F's. Now, an interesting thing that you might have heard, the A on the F chord was very easy to hear, especially coming from what we did prior. The reason for that, in my mind, is it's in the pentatonic scale. Right? So, you heard the change right there, right? So I just went from the G to the A. And it's really nice because it's right in the pentatonic scale. The stronger note, and maybe a little, I don't want to say jarring, but the one that really grabs your attention, if you go to that F. So I'm thinking like... Right, because the F was not in that parent scale of the pentatonic. So that F is the one that really grabbed my attention. Now, it's all a stylistic idea for you, which one you want to do, the F or the A. So the way I would practice this, and this is really exactly what I do, I'll take the chord progression and I'll just play through it, right? And I'll target the notes that I want to play on each chord. And I will beat the heck out of them. You know, when you want to separate practicing from playing, I will sit there and go, sorry, right, and change, right? So I get it in my head, right? So, and you start to hear what the awesome thing that you start to hear is these resolutions. You start to hear the chord changes just by doing this. And I know it sounds ridiculous. You have to practice it. And there's the thing between practicing and there's playing. And you have to sit there and isolate each chord the way I'm doing it. And I don't know if you heard it already, right? For me, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, the opportunities and the melodies start to appear. And then I just start to hear, right? You hear those resolutions from the, that's not always in the scale. But if you're just thinking a scale, you're just playing notes. You're not thinking inside the chords and thinking melodically. This really forces me and you to think melodically. And like I said, the best part is the more you do it, it seems like, for me, it was like, you know, someone was clearing off a mirror or something like that. It was all these ideas started popping up. Like everything became much more focused and clearer to me about how you make it through chord changes.